Hi, I'm Nadia Munla and I'm an embodiment coach, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about why sometimes positive thinking does not have us feel positive. So I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I get this a lot. I've had this myself. I hear this from clients a lot, and just even from friends. You know, when we are just feeling like crap and we just go into this like mode of like monitoring our way into positivity, right? Like setting all these intentions, and um, I just keep thinking about, like, you know, when you like Sharpie on your mirror, or you like create these vision boards, and then nothing happens and you just sort of feel like stuck and more anxious, and what ends up happening is actually on top of already not feeling great. Okay, what happens is you then have this extra layer of feeling like, oh my god, am I broken? Do I need to be fixed in a way? Why does this not work for me but it seems to work for other people, blah blah blah, right? And so we have this other script that then adds a whole nother layer of feeling like shit, let's be honest. And so this is one of my biggest pet peeves that people don't really address in personal development from the get-go, which is that we have these different parts of our brain that process in very different ways. And so obviously our brain and our nervous system is an incredibly complex system, but I'm going to break down this particular concept in the Cliff Notes version here for today's video. And that is essentially that we have several different parts of our brain, but there's two that I want to talk about today, and that is the neocortex up here in this area, and then sort of the reptilian brain in the backish area. And you know, neocortex is really the part of the brain that is responsible for language and thought processes and words, right? So when we are positive thinking, right, what we're doing is we are really using a good chunk of this part of our brain. And often what we're trying to get positive thoughts about is a lack of safety somewhere, something that feels dangerous, that feels scary, that feels even potentially like a threat to our survival. Even though sometimes it feels milder, our nervous system sort of responds to it that way. And that is then this other part of our brain, right, the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is responsible, you know, initially the mechanism of the reptilian brain is one of saving us essentially from the predator, from the tiger that's going to pounce out of the bushes and whatnot. And of course now we're in the 21st century and it's a little different. We don't necessarily have a tiger pouncing out of the bush, although every so often, you know, might be somewhere where that might be happening. But usually it's more along the lines of, like, you know, deadlines and stresses and credit card bills and things like that. And so so often what happens is we try to speak to the reptilian brain in a language it doesn't understand, because the reptilian brain is it's a mechanism that's existed way before we created language. It's a very animal, primal part of us, and it doesn't speak the language of words and concepts. It doesn't understand. So when we are trying to think and conceptualize and strategize our way out of fear, out of feeling a lack of safety, it's like speaking just a foreign language to this part of our brain. And so for me, this was a light bulb moment when I first learned about it myself. And it's one of the first things that I teach all of my clients is, if you're going to address, you know, a problem, with a language that this part of your brain doesn't understand, of course you're going to feel broken. Of course you're going to feel like you can't fix it. And, you know, you feel you may need to, you know, hire a whole bunch of different therapists and coaches and healers and whatnot, and read all the books and do the things. But like, it could really be as simple as understanding, well, what is the language of the reptilian brain? Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you the language of the reptilian brain is not that complicated. It's breath. It's breath, it's movement, and it's a lot of what breath and movement evoke. in us, which oftentimes is just like a movement of energy, a dissipation of excess old, trauma energy that's locked inside of us. Oftentimes it comes in tears and sounds and different ways that we express ourselves. But essentially, if we speak the language of breath to this part of our body, that is how we are speaking English to essentially someone who speaks English instead of trying to speak French to someone who speaks English, right? And so it doesn't mean that this vision boarding, intention setting, mantra making isn't good. That's sort of a more complicated and separate conversation, a more nuanced thing to look at. But essentially, the baseline is that you need to go in and speak the language of the reptilian brain. And that is where embodiment comes in. That's why I do the work that I do, because I myself, and I saw so many other people struggling with being unable to sort of get through that wall of stuckness that comes with, but I'm doing everything, in this I'm trying to positively think my way through this. And really what's happening is there's just extreme lack of safety that's showing up in our bodies. And people don't necessarily have the tools to address that directly, to regulate their nervous system. And so if you're feeling stressed anytime soon, try this next time it comes up for you. If you feel stressed, worried, feeling unsafe, feeling contracted, can you slow down? And instead of trying to strategize and think your way out of it, can you actually just slow down and use something as simple as this breath, which is where you inhale for a certain number of counts and you exhale for double. So let's say you'd inhale for 4, exhale for 8, and just do that, for several minutes until you find yourself calm down. That's when there's a gear shift that switches in your nervous system, in this part of your brain that understands, oh, actually, okay, we're back to a place where a tiger is not going to pounce on us. And then from there, you can set your intentions. From there, you can vision board. From there, you can take whatever action you need to that is more, from this part of the brain. But start from the bottom up and let me know how it goes.